The great danger this week is getting so high on your own supply that you behave erratically and confidently. We can certainly expect a certain amount of confidence with this, but maybe making wild moves that don't actually take you toward your goals. Let's think about that for a second. So this week we got Mercury in Pisces. Mercury is the communication planet. Mercury is the one who wants to figure things out, understand things, talk about it, talk it through, sort information into bits and pieces that are intelligible. Mercury is in Pisces. This is Mercury's least favorite sign, and also stationing retrograde this week, so we can see plenty of confusion happening here. Now, the good news is that Mercury is going to turn around and is immediately just going to go kiss Venus in Pisces another time. So, you know, we can tell a sweet story with this. This is the kind of thing that does feel like it's going to be really good for making art and stuff like that. It also looks like it will very easily turn into something delusional. So, how delusional do you want to get with it? Let's see. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer. And if you want to get a reading, or if you want to learn how to do astrology, or if you want to listen to some dope-ass music, you can go to ZamboniFunk.com. Thank y'all so much for being here. Super appreciate everybody who been in this thing with me for the last 9-10 years, whatever it is. And shout out to the new folks also. Appreciate y'all. So, with this Mercury situation, this Mercury thing is, it looks like it's gonna, what I was thinking about on the way here was like, this looks like a really good time to get nostalgic about your ex and jump back into bed and then be like, what have I done? You know? So I have done this during a retrograde moment where Venus was involved. It was, it seemed like a good idea at the time, felt really good in that moment. Turned out to be something that I just had to go through. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's what it'd be like out here. And Mercury retrograde is a really, always going to be a good time to engage with ghosts of the past and stuff like that. And so Venus in Pisces especially is so delicious, so very good at relationship and making sweet things happen and all that, that like we can definitely, you can step in it this week. If you especially if you like low-key want to step in it a little bit, like this is a great time for that. And that's part of the reason why I am a little bit concerned about what we could think of as, I almost wanted to call it executive dysfunction, but it's not going to be executive dysfunction. It looks like it's going to be confident, effective executive function, but the kind of thing that breaks stuff and might not be actually that good for you. So what I'm thinking with there is we've got Mars in Aquarius making a square to Uranus and Taurus. So Mars is the action planet. Mars is the one who like pushes on stuff and gets it going and, hot, sweaty, wants to make things happen in some kind of way. Mars in Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Now, this is interesting because Saturn is now in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. And so we've got mutual reception going on there. Each of them rules the other. This is actually very good for executive function, even though Saturn doesn't very much like Aries. And Saturn is currently in Aries, precisely conjunct Neptune. Good job, everybody. We did it. We survived the Neptune conjunction, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. We are not out of the woods with that. Things are still very murky and weird, and it is unclear exactly what constitutes reality and all of that sort of stuff. We are in that. But we did survive the exact conjunction, and we live in a different world, and so there is a certain sense of possibility that comes along with that. So, but Saturn is not doing a very good job doing the Saturn things. Saturn's job is to look at boundaries and discipline and challenges and obstacles and guardrails and all that sort of stuff. The Saturn things, right? So Saturn in Aries, Saturn doesn't like that spot. Saturn with Neptune, Neptune's like, what boundaries? What even am rules? So so that's a difficult spot for Saturn to be in, but because Saturn is in this Mars sign and Mars is in Saturn's sign, there's an ability there to do executive function very effectively. And so by effectively, what I mean is you do a thing and stuff happens. We're not talking about duds here. Like sometimes you do a thing and basically nothing happens. That's not what we're looking at right now. What we're looking at is an ability to get shit done. But Mars is square to Uranus. So Mars is the action planet. Uranus is the planet of surprises and left field dynamics. Things happen out of the blue when Uranus is around, this kind of thing, right? So so that's part of what I mean by erratic. It's this idea that it's difficult to predict what kinds of actions are going to be taking place here, especially since Saturn, who is ruling that Mars, is so closely conjunct Neptune, and Neptune is just introducing so much confusion. It's not clear what's real. It's not clear what's actually happening. Long-term thinking is probably not working very well right now. So this is the kind of thing that wants to get something done immediately and wants to make the solution happen right now and isn't thinking about second and third order consequences. And so I would guess that this is going to be a time for wild things to take place that don't necessarily move you toward your long-term ends. And so we could think about that at the geopolitical level and think about how crazy the leadership is and all that sort of stuff. And that's going to be true. We're going to see a lot of that sort of stuff this week. But that's not particularly helpful at this level, at the level that I actually live at. And what's more important here is to think with, okay, how am I deluding myself? If we think about Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus, that's confusion and telling a sweet story about how confused I am, and then letting that inform my executive function. So I'm doing stuff based on a sweet story that I would love to believe, that I really wish was true so much that I'm just going to pretend that it's true. And then based on that weird faulty information that tastes so delicious to me, I am likely to do something that maybe catches others off guard. Maybe maybe something happens that catches me off guard because I wasn't paying attention because I had my little rose-colored glasses on and all that. Like, this looks like a moment where major surprises and disruptions. Mars loves disrupting shit, and we put Uranus with that, and it's like, let's flip the whole table over. Fuck all of that, right? So this kind of situation looks like it is going to be really easy to get into trouble and to not exactly know how we got into trouble. It'll be unclear exactly where the fault line was. So what do we do about that? Let's think with this for a second. What's the medicine here? So in the first place, Mercury and Venus together in Pisces is going to be really good for art. Make good art. Make good art about whatever is going on. You're feeling feelings, make some art about it. So this is going to be if your executive function is working, then actually doing the artwork will produce artwork. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but I'd be getting in the studio and I'd be like fucking around. You know what I mean? And like nothing happens. Again, duds, that sort of thing. That's not what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a genuine expression of excellent emotion here. And so it's good to remember that Mercury retrograde in Pisces, that's Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is like the greatest poet who ever lived or something like that. You can do that under this sky. So there's that going on here. I would also think with, if long-term thinking isn't working properly, right? If we're not really able to clearly understand what second and third order consequences might be, because we legitimately don't know what's real anymore, then it's probably a good idea to make a short-term play, but make sure that a next short-term play is also going to happen after that. You might think about like jumping to a lily pad and then jumping to the next lily pad. So we're not going to necessarily try to build a house in this space, but it'll get me to the next step, and then I can reevaluate and see what's appropriate to move to for the next thing. So lean into the confusion is part of the game right now, right? And so sometimes you need to make a mess of things. Sometimes things are a little bit too orderly, and that can become a kind of tyranny. And so this might be a moment to lean into some of that mess. And it doesn't mean that you have to live in chaos and mess for the rest of your life, but it does mean that this moment is likely to be a little messy, and you might feel better if you just went with that for a while. Just get dirty.